Okay, this was a working set from a session I done recently. So it's a just no-handed straddle up to a straddle planche. I'm a big fan of combining these two exercises. So one being a mobility for the hips, and then obviously one is a strength, straight arm strength movement, the planche. I'm showing there the straddle version. Now obviously we can play with both of those and make them easier or harder. I'm just going to show you how I put these together and some variations you can do depending on your level. So with the straddle up, we'll break it down first. Great hip open and closing exercise will help you for the straddle press to handstand. Obviously the straddle planche just give you control and mobility through the hip. So if you don't have a straddle up or you haven't done one before, start with your butt raised up. So you can start here, I'm sitting on a step to show you, but depending on your flexibility, you could go higher or lower with this. Ideally use something that you can adjust the height of. And then slowly building up to the point where you don't need to have the raised butt anymore, and you can do it off the floor. So keeping the shoulders and head on one side of the body as the hips go the other side, and trying to keep balance through that. And the more efficient and better you can become with that movement, the easier it is going to be shifting up and down. And obviously middle split flexibility is going to make it much easier as well, the deeper you can go up and down. So there's the full version on the floor. You can then go to lifting the feet up onto something, so you raise the feet instead of raising the butt, which again makes it harder. You could float the feet at the bottom, so you can make it harder or easier. The variation I'm looking at today to make it harder is to use no hands. So here I am back on the step and I'm lowering down, so real big lean forwards you need to compensate for the butt going backwards, and then the opposite on the way back up, shoulders and head reaching forwards to get the butt back off the step. And then I'm going to slowly go lower and lower with that to see how deep I can go and still get up and down without using the hands in any way. You could do something in between where you just use one hand. So now I'm down to 4 of these blue mats. So I'm using this as my mobility, as my flexibility as I go. So I'm not doing stretching specifically to get into this position. I'm using the drill to stretch and get to my maximum position. So I can eventually do this off the floor. So I'm going to slowly start on the step, start on a few mats, decrease the mats as my hips slowly open up during this session. And really trying to get that hip fully open at the top. Okay, now we're going to go to 2 mats. Okay, now I'm adding in that protracted position. So I would do this on all sets as well. So once you're familiar with the straddle up, then get familiar with the planche position. So it's a protracted hold I'm just doing to start with. So I'm pushing up to that protraction, back out again, back through the straddle up. Okay, now because I know I can go into more of a straddle planche position on this one, I'm going to just lift up for a couple of seconds and take all of the weight into my hands instead of keeping some weight in the toes. And again, I'm just doing this as part of my warm-up for my planche and for the hips for that straddle up. So it's just a float for a few seconds. The other variation is to go into some sort of tuck. So this one I'm going to show a high hip version of the tuck planche. So I come into there. And then if I can, I'm going to go back to that straddle position without putting the feet down. There's a dog in the way, so I go into a squat instead. So that's one version, is you just go into the tuck, which is slightly easier. It's harder to go back out. So this one I'm going to show going up into that protract position and then stepping in foot down before I go into a tuck planche. So again, it's quite a high hip position, so it's an easier version than a hips level with the shoulders. Then walking back out to your straddle position. And you could be doing the easier version of the straddle, like where your butt is on the box. And I could just stay with tippy toes there. So I'm just going into that tuck position, but it's a protracted hold. And then finishing with the full movement. So I'm in the no-handed straddle up into protraction, and then lift the toes up for as long as I can in that straddle planche position. And then for me, I'll do that for sets. So I'm getting that straddle mobility work, and I'm getting the planche holds. And then at the end there, I'm just going to show him that I can go into a pancake position as well. So you could do the no-handed straddle up and add the pancake in at the end as well for a bonus. I tend to, at the end of a straddle up session like this, I have my best pancake position as well. It just seems to really open the hips up really well. Normal deal, any questions, stick them in the comments below. Thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated, and I'll see you next time.